been hearing Welcome Yule from Benjamin Britten's Ceremony of Carols, which the Newburyport Choral Society will be performing at their upcoming winter concert on December 9th and 10th. And luckily for us, we have two experts on the Choral Society and the upcoming winter concert. Brian Greenberg, who is Media and Publicity Director for the Choral Society, is here, and the renowned Penny Lazarus.
She always says that.
Because you are. Renowned piano teacher locally, and membership director for the Choral Society is also here. So first of all, Brian and Penny, thank you so much for your return visit to the morning show. You've been here in the past to do an expert version of talking about the concerts. I really appreciate your taking the time to come here and talk about the Choral Society's exciting sounding upcoming concert. So thank you.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Our pleasure. Good morning. Good morning.
Well, let's start with talking to us about the winter concert's theme of a celebration of unity, holiday music from around the world, and the role that song can play in creating greater unity, hopefully, and peace among all of us.
Such an important theme, especially in the world right now, ongoing conflicts. This particular program was developed when Minji was interviewing for the music directorship of the Choral Society. And every candidate, all the finalists were just terrific, had to submit a sample program. And this actually is very close to the sample program that Minji submitted. And we were so impressed with it that she could represent so many different cultures around the world in song that, linked together for holiday time, because we've become so much more aware that December is more than one or two holidays.
It certainly is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was set out by her on purpose to welcome the diversity into the program and acknowledge what December means and how it's different or the same, from world cultures all over. I love it that the children's chorus, the Greater Newbury Children's Chorus with Gina McKeown, is again joining our December program. And in the music that they picked, also, Gina's so great at choosing music for her children's chorus, fits with the theme as well. And one of the pieces by Pink Zebra, I think that's just great. He's still anonymous. We still don't know who really Pink Zebra is. But it's Christmas in My Hometown. And what it refers to is that people can live in very warm climates in December, as well as northern cold ones. And that's such a simple concept, but I don't know that I've ever had it in the front of my head before.
Yeah.
Except for the occasional family trip to Florida in December. That wasn't very much fun with fake snowflakes.
We tend to visualize, New England scenarios for the winter holidays. So, absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the highlights of the program then. We started with the clip from Benjamin Britten's Ceremony of Carols, which is a holiday classic and enduringly popular. And this work has a fascinating origin story. And while you begin telling that, Maeve, if you could cue the photo of Benjamin Britten for a few seconds while we talk about what makes this piece so enduringly popular and how it came to be written, because it really is an interesting story.
Right. So that is part of the choral repertoire that if you're a choral singer, you'll run across, every couple of years. And yet it was only this year that it kind of hit me. Every time it's programmed, it hasn't been programmed that much with NCS, but when it is programmed, the title just leads me to think, it's a medley of popular Christmas carols. And it's only like halfway through the rehearsals that it hits me again, wait a minute, it's not.
Yeah.
So there are other famous medleys that choruses sing, but this is very special. And Britten is a major 20th century British composer. He was living in England at the rise up to the tensions and the conflicts in the horrible situations that led to World War II.
Yeah.
Being a pacifist, he actually left England 3 years before the breakout of World War II to America, because that early in the rise of Nazism, Britain was very hawkish towards, wanting to build up their military and go to war. And so Britain came to the United States, which turned out to be only a 3-year exile. And he actually, against the wishes of the U.S. government, because they couldn't guarantee his safety, he and his partner, Peter Pears, who's a wonderful tenor, made the transatlantic journey in 1939
Wow.
back to Britain, being surrounded during the passage by German U-boats.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a quite perilous journey. And on the way over, the boat went north to Halifax and made a stop to let people disembark and others come on, and he went to an antique bookstore and found this compendium of Middle English 16th century, 17th century poetry. And it was that book that led to the text of Ceremony of Carols. So it's an 11 movement work. And it does tell the story of the birth of Christ. And it is set almost like an oratorio. It has a beautiful Latin procession in and recession out, the same piece. In this case, we're not going to procession. It's the Greater Newburyport Children's Chorus is going to sing it with their lovely high voices, boys and girls, which is traditional in England to have these gorgeous children's choruses.
Miss Maeve, could you bring up the picture of the Newburyport Children's Chorus, since we're talking about them right now? And then the picture after that of Minji with Gina McKeown, their director. And sorry to interrupt, but I thought it was a good time to show them because they're adorable.
They're a wonderful addition to the concerts. Everyone just is in awe of the kids' voices. They're angelic.
Yes, they're just like open your heart. It's like we don't verbalize, but inside we're going, "Aw," they're totally adorable. So,
and I'll also say that the Middle English is really interesting. It's a little bit different, but it's accessible. You can almost even without looking at the translations. The translations will be in front of the audience in our concert program, but you almost don't even need them. You can sense the meaning from. Just from the Middle English itself.
Yeah, as in welcome, pretty clearly welcome.
Yeah, welcome, welcome.
Spelled a little funny,
welcome,
but you get the idea.
Right.
I'm sorry I interrupted. You were talking about the children's chorus, and now people have had the chance to see how adorable they are.
So then they're, in sandwiched between Hodie Natu's, which many people will recognize because it's a well-known medieval Latin hymn, are these other movements that do tell the Passion story, and actually starts with some movements set in the springtime, because that's celebrated with Easter, although Easter's not mentioned in these lyrics, but so it's this innocence and seriousness of the Christmas holiday set against the desire for hope and peace in the middle of what's going to be this soon, just tragic war. Yeah. And one of the medieval pieces, my favorite is, although it's the most serious of the 11 movements, and many of them are celebratory, but my favorite is This Little Babe. Because it is in a minor key, it is furiously fast. The chorus is in fugal form, meaning it's like complicated round all the time, and it is setting the image of the innocent babe, the innocent Christ child, against Satan's fold, and that's exactly what Britain is feeling, during this transatlantic passage back to. The year of the start of the build up to World War II, and that so that comparison between innocence of heaven and hell and and the fury of the world at that time is just so meaningful.
Well, Penny, thank you. It is an amazing story. And the context for it gives renewed kind of meaning to the juxtaposition, as you put it, of this really perilous time in world history. And yet this eternal story about the hope in the Christian faith of the birth of Christ. Although that didn't end well. But nonetheless, it gives this wider sense of significance, and also, this juxtaposition of perilous times and a story of hope is also eternal. It feels totally relevant to what's going on in our world today. So thank you for laying that out. I really appreciate it. Well, let's talk about some of the other varied and beautiful, but perhaps lesser known holiday music, including some from those warmer parts of the planet in the southern hemisphere that still celebrate things in December, although we in New England have a hard time imagining it. I understand that one piece is a lovely and a lively Spanish work, and we have a brief clip of that that I'll play. And Maeve, if you could bring up the photo of the composer Pablo Sosa while we do that, we'll be all set. It is very lively.
This will be our opening piece of the first set. There's various sets of music we're singing, and this is a very opening piece. And it's so beautiful with the percussion. There's going to be there are going to be a percussionist with a lot of percussion instruments. There's going to be a harp, and we have one of our own singers, John Moreland, who's going to be on doing the guitar work for this piece. And so, I think it's going to be a really lively piece. The words are actually, heaven is singing for joy, because in your life and mine shines the glory of God. And it's just a very celebratory piece.
It's fun to sing.
It's fun to sing, too.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll be returning to that piece at the end of the concert. And because the Alleluia part is so catchy, everybody will be invited to sing along, the children's chorus and the audience.
Yeah.
So it becomes an opening and a closing mirroring the procession and recession of Ceremony of Carols, doing the same thing in the greater context of the concert. But yet, like all music or art or literature, it's always of its own time.
Yeah.
We tend to forget when they're older pieces that culturally they just exist for beauty, but every piece comes out of its culture and situation. And this piece, as joyous as it was written by a priest in Argentina during the 20th century, in which Argentina itself was being led by a politically difficult dictator, and there was this conflict called the Dirty War, in which even innocent people working to help the poor would be abducted. And from Sosa's church, several of his congregants were abducted and presumed murdered. And then after that political demise, the economy took a downfall. And the situation in Argentina was really dire. And people were beginning to question their faith in the church. So Sosa wrote this piece as an antidote to that. So its joyousness is bringing people back into the fold, and a vision of peace and unity. So what a great way to start our concert and to end it.
And what a great story. And you're talking about the impact that it had. Reminds me of where we began with the power of song. The power of song to
Very
create a
much
mood
so.
and an environment and to bring people together. And I think anytime we can bring people together in harmony and in a feeling of joy, it's a gift to the planet and to all of us. So thanks for that wonderful story.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, what else? Tell us some more about other highlights that you're excited about.
Well, there's also a Hanukkah song. It's sung in Hebrew. It comes from Morocco, and it's very. What I like about the song is that it gets to feature a sort of the men's group by itself, and then the women come in by themselves, and then everyone is singing, and it's very, very spirited. Also, it's a very, very nice piece. Yeah.
Brian was actually instrumental in selecting this piece for the program. He and I both are on the music committee, you know, with our music director and our president, Vicky Bushy, and other musicologists in the chorus. And we are trying to pick something to acknowledge Hanukkah. And Brian really latched on to this. It's also arranged by a very esteemed local music director, Joshua Jacobsen of the Zamir Chorus in Boston, and he's a former director emeritus of music at Northeastern University. So there's that local connection as well. But it was wonderful to learn that the melody and the words came from 15th century Morocco. And there was a gathering, a real thriving Jewish community in Morocco at the time, so that it had a nickname, Little Jerusalem.
Oh, no kidding.
So we had like no idea.
Yeah.
You know, we learned this
Interesting.
after the piece was selected. But one of my favorite things is one of our basses is singing the solo.
That's right.
And he is Father Costin Popescu. He's the head of our local Greek Annunciation Church
Yep.
here in Newburyport. And given the political situation right now in Israel and in Palestine, nothing pleases me more, and I'm sure others will feel the same, to have a Greek Orthodox priest who grew up in Romania, who is an physicist. He's a PhD in physics, but he is is skilled in Sanskrit, Greek, Hebrew,
Right.
and Byzantine chant.
Okay,
Yeah.
Father
And-
Costas is a Renaissance man.
And I'll tell you, most priests have to take Hebrew as one of their one of their courses during their training. So and obviously, that applies to Father Costin as well.
Right, and I'm sure he has studied some Arabic, as well as you would study all of the ancient languages. And it's what a gift, again, of speaking towards unity,
Yeah.
to have him be the soloist in the song for Hanukkah.
He's a gift of unity in one person.
Right. And his
Which
voice.
how wonderful
his
to
voice
have him
is-
be doing the solo for this amazing piece. And thank you for that background on it. Little Jerusalem in Morocco. Who knew? I didn't, but I'm glad to know now because it makes the world a more interesting place.
There's so some things will be very familiar to people. I mean, you can't hardly do a holiday December program without singing Silent Night.
Yes.
And Minji came up with this gorgeous arrangement. But Silent Night has its own story of faith, and in which the person who penned Silent Night was a pastor of a church whose organ had flooded out so that it was unoperable for the Christmas Eve service. So like hours before, he runs the poem over to the next chapel, who the priest is also a guitarist, and said, can you quickly come up with something so we have something we can sing for Christmas Eve service? And that Silent Night, it was penned within an hour, the
my.
music to this poem. And then Silent Night has been used to bridge cultures in war, in the need for enmity, all through the centuries. It was used in Christmas Eve, the pause in the War of World War I,
Yes.
in which German soldiers were heard singing Silent Night, and all the other soldiers joined in singing in English or French, and it's a very, very famous occurrence.
Yes.
And it's become so special worldwide that it's now considered an intangible cultural part of our heritage by UNESCO.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Isn't that?
Wow.
I did not know that, but it is deservedly so.
Right.
Because it is another one of those songs that brings people together, because the music brings about this, it's very calming music. And also induces a kind of a sense of wonder.
It does.
So a kind of calm wonder, which is an unusual feeling, but it's a really good one. So anyway, thank you for that story.
Absolutely.
You're just enriching all of these
Oh my
pieces with the
gosh.
history, and thank you.
I hope we get to talk a little bit about Minji and how she has organized
yes.
her, not only about
Yeah.
the theme of
Yeah.
unity of different cultures in the world, but she's laid out this program in different sets. It's almost like 5 mini concerts within the one concert.
Or chapters in a book.
Yeah. Or yes, exactly. And each one has a different feel to it. She arranged a few songs in each of these sets that have the same feeling or purpose or meaning. And of course, the children's chorus have their own set where they're going to be featured.
Well, one of the sets features Harambe, which takes us again to the, a different continent, the southern hemisphere. So let's listen to a clip and then talk about Harambe.
Okay.
And so, Maeve, if you could bring up the photograph of the arranger, Chad Werrick, I'll get the clip set up. So it's a different set,
Yeah.
different feel.
Yeah.
Could you tell us something about Harambe?
Well, I'll tell you. We have a wonderful chorus member. Her name is Janet Barnes, and she took all the lyrics and translated them, and she did a little research into the Swahili, or I'm not sure if it's Swahili or Kiswahili, but anyway, you heard that clip talks about I call for my mother, I call for my father, and bringing the family together and thinking of ancestors. And then there's another section where we call for umoja, we call for ujima and ujama, and all these Swahili names represent the different qualities of Kwanzaa. For instance, umoja is unity. Kajichagulia is self-determination. Ujima is collective work and responsibility. Ujama is cooperative economics. Nia is purpose. Kuumba is creativity. And Imani is faith. So they're the key principles of Kwanzaa. Now, I've heard of Kwanzaa all my life, but I never really got to the details of all these different
Brian, and that's
qualities.
good to know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. So their menorah is 7 candles for the 7 principles
Interesting.
of life in Kwanzaa.
Right.
And Hanukkah's 8 candles.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, Kwanzaa began as a Black American national holiday, and it actually began as Black nationals' response to the Watts race riots in Los Angeles. So it has an American beginning, but it's using the text and the language and the principles that are ancestral to Africa and to Black identity. So
That's
it's really special. It's
fascinating.
really fun to sing it. And it just encapsulates the idea of unity.
Yeah, it does. And it's got a different kind of rhythm. It's got that kind of African rhythm, which is also kind of infectious.
Oh,
Makes you want to move.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
How can you not clap? How can you cannot clap to that song?
I hope people will. It's not programmed or anything, but I really hope the audience will start to, because we'll be singing it without music.
Maybe Minji can turn
and we're encouraged to sway back and forth as you would in an African communal dance, and I hope people join in with clapping.
It's also another example of the power of song to just induce that kind of rhythmic kind of dance feeling, and there will be drums.
Yeah.
Oh, several. Right,
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So. Well, let's talk about this. Is going to be the first Choral Society concert with new music director Dr. Minji Kim conducting, and you were talking about her, and you were talking about her programming, which is brilliant, and you were talking about the kind of intriguing idea of the sets within the concert. But tell us a little bit more about Minji's style of conducting and what the concert audience has to look forward to. In Maeve, I think we have 3 photos of Minji in the process of conducting. If you could bring those up and show them while we talk about her.
Yeah, these photos were taken maybe about a month ago during one of the rehearsals, and they really captures her energy, her enthusiasm for sharing the message of music, which is primarily joy, and she has this in her whole style of conducting. She elevates us at each rehearsal to really enjoy what we're doing, and so that in a nutshell is what I feel about Minji's style.
Yeah, chorus members have been reporting in how much fun rehearsals are these days. And she's so totally committed to everyone being able to experience choral music and participate equally. So in her teaching and conducting style, she appeals to all the senses. So if you're an oral learner, she does a lot of singing herself and a lot of playing. And this was new for us, actually singing the scales that may be inherent in the backbone of a piece that you're learning. So she'll have you sing like even the modal scale or the minor scale, and everybody enjoys, going up and down with their voices that way. And then she'll introduce the melody, and you can see it's just a pattern of the notes mixed up, just like the teaching of do, re, mi in The Sound of Music, which puts everybody at ease. And then, for those who want a little bit musicology or music theory, she's always, stopping for a minute and talking about the symbol system of music and, conducting direction. She started to even teach us a little bit of conducting so that we can better follow her. So she's, physical in her direction. She gets everybody moving and tapping their heart for the beat and the pulse. She's, verbally very nuanced and gives us all, wonderful inklings of what the composer may have had in mind. And then she's very aurally attuned. So it's just been a delight.
So Minji is a one-person embodiment of the power of song, in other words. And she radiates that outward to those who have the privilege of coming within her orbit.
She's always smiling. Her voice is so beautiful.
Beautiful voice.
We haven't had a woman conductor in a long, long time, like 30 or 40 years. And I think the men have been spoiled by having a music director that can sing in their octave. And, but her voice is gorgeous, and it just flows out so easily that we can lock into those pitches.
Wonderful. Well,
It's
thank
really
you for
an
that description.
inspiration.
Well, I think we should remind people of the concert location, times, and dates. And while we do that, it is a festive affair, so I thought we could post some photographs of the Choral Society in their concert finery while we remind people of when the concerts are and where they'll be and how people can get information and tickets. So maybe if you could cue I think we have a photograph of the sopranos in their finery, the basses in their finery, and the full chorus in all its majesty.
Right.
So we've put those up for a few seconds while we talk about. So let's just give the details again of the concert.
Okay, so it's Saturday evening, December 9th at 7:30, and a Sunday, December 10th at 2:30 p.m. At Bellville Church. And the ticket site is, you can go onto our website. It's www.newburyportchoralsociety.org, all one word.
Okay. Very good. Yes. Well, that pretty much sums it up then. It's
If you
clearly
want Sunday tickets, you better rush right now.
Sunday
and buy them.
always.
Yeah.
Yes, Sunday. Oh, maybe it's because of the daytime or whatever, but it
sells out.
Sunday sells out
Yeah.
very quickly. It's there. It's really getting the numbers are getting up there. So.
So go to the website now.
Go to the website.
Lock them in because you're really not going to want to
Or
miss
come
this
Saturday night, go
concert.
to
Or
dinner
come
first in
Saturday
downtown
night.
Newburyport.
That's right.
And then come and join us.
Make an evening of it.
Yeah. I mean, really, for the music and for the feeling that is sure to come out and be radiated in the audience.
Yeah.
I just know it's going to be absolutely a wonderful experience, very unique.
You
Feeling.
will be filled with the power of song.
Absolutely.
Well, Penny and Brian, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. You always do a wonderful job making the programs come alive and giving us lots to look forward to and anticipate. So thank you so much for taking the time to
Very welcome.
Really
Very
appreciate
welcome.
it. So, all right, everybody, that's it for today's show. Please join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. Till then, farewell. Listen to some music. All right, everybody. Get this started.